G'day everyone, thanks for joining us. Today I'm going to be doing a quick how-to guide on filling holes on the bottom of the older Tamiya kit. So you can apply this to other things as well, obviously, but someone sent me a question about the best way to go about it. So I thought, well, I've got this Marder 2 waiting to be built here, so we might as well get it out and get started on that. And I'll also show you some progress shots of the Tamiya M41, which I'd already started. So, sorry about that. So there we go. So you can see there's a bit of a difference between the two, even though they're the same scale. But we'll talk you through this, what I've done, how I've done it, and we'll do a demo on that. So a few things we're going to need. Firstly, a bit of sandpaper. We're going to need that later on, obviously, when we sand everything down after it's dried. I find generally, do it however you like, or use whatever you like, but I find I just cut it into little squares, works fine for me. I start off with the grade, what's that one? That's around 360, P360, and work to my light. I really don't want to go any heavier than that, because then I'll scratch the plastic too much. Obviously need our scalpels with a couple of blades. So I've got an old blade in there, and I've got a round blade. I'll show you what I'll do with that in a minute. We need, if I can just pick it up, some plasticard. So this is just evergreen plasticard. I believe it's evergreen. Simple stuff. You can pick it up. Comes in packed with a few sheets. Easy. Not all that expensive. Some Epo putty. So this is a 2-part epoxy putty. You can use whatever you like. You can use milliput, whatever you prefer. I actually really like this one. I find it easy to work with. Tamiya putty. And last but not least, a jar of Manky water. No. It's my painting. I use it for the painting, so the jar's a bit discoloured, but it's clean water in there. And we'll use that when we're mixing the 2-part epoxy, so we'll show you that. But first, let's just start off and describe the issue. For those of you that may not have built one of these kits, a lot of the older Tamiya kits have the holes on the bottom of them, and that was because you could put little motors and things in them. You can see the battery position there, and you had an on-off switch that you could put in here and a little motor and drive the little things around. I haven't actually ever seen anyone do it, but if you want to enter a kit into a competition, or maybe you just want to fix this up because it's annoying you, even though you really can't see it, you want to fix the whole underside here. So we'll go through that, show you how to do that. I've started on this I keep going to call it T41. I have no idea. The M41, a Walker Bulldog. So basically, I've done all the construction on the vehicle. The other half is just out in the other room drying at the moment. But I've done all the construction, done all I needed, and I'm just tidying up the underside. So it has similar holes to the Marder 2, and all I've done is just got a bit of the plasticard and glued that on the back to cover up the holes. And then I've used the 2-part epoxy to fill up the bigger holes, and then I'm using Tamiya putty just to fill up little minor discrepancies, little minor inconsistencies with my sanding or my puttying. So I just use that to touch it up and fix it up. You really, you probably don't need to go to this much trouble, but it's how I like to do it. And you can see the you can see the 2-part epoxy, the Epo putty, is gone into that little gap there really well. It fits into the crevices beautifully, and it doesn't shrink. Now I get a bit of shrinkage with the Tamiya putty, but I don't get it with the Epo putty, which is why I use it for bigger areas. You can use Tamiya putty for this if you like, but you'll be applying it a few times because it is going to shrink down. I don't know, I've had people tell me it doesn't shrink. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but every time I use it, it will shrink. And I don't mind using it on just little touch-up bits, because I can just over-apply it and then sand it back. But when you're doing bigger sections, it's just a pain in the backside. Right, so put that aside, and let's get started on this. Right, so the first thing I want to do is remove some of the raised detail on here. It's pretty hard to see, but there's an on-off selector there. Or indicator on there for the power pack when you put it in. So I'm going to remove that, and the easiest way to do that really is just with a rounded scalpel blade. Now you can use a chisel blade too if you like. I find it just quite simple just move it along the surface. Also get rid of the injector pin mark that's on the bottom there. Now it doesn't have to be too perfect because we're going to go over this with putty and sand it and everything. It's not the end of the world, but we just want to get rid of the majority of the mess. Still a bit to do. You can see I will be gouging the plastic a little bit, but I'm also picking up all that raised detail, so that is gone. Beautiful. Right. Next. Styrene sheet. All right. Now the ones with grids on it, I originally bought this because I couldn't get one without grids on it for some reason. However, I've actually come to really like the gridded one. It's very simple to use. You don't even really need to cut it. You can just bend it and off it comes. So when you're doing stuff like this, it's perfect because you don't really need to worry about how detailed you're being or how careful you're being. So we really just want to cover up those holes as best we can. I've got a little bit of surface detail to remove there as well, so I just spotted that then. So let's do this now. Trying to do it so there's not a big shadow cast over the area. And once again, I'm not being too neat. I'm just getting rid of the detail so I can stick in a bit of plastic there. Look at this amateur. Alright. Pretty much done. Just neaten that up a bit. Sorry. Okay. So, we have our plastic card. Revel contactor glue. You can use whatever glue you want. Doesn't have to be Revel. Just whack this around the hole. Try not to put it in the holes. We want it around the holes. And just grab our little plastic card. There we go. And push it down. So this gives you a nice backing so that when you're using the epoxy or a Tamiya putty, whatever you're doing, it doesn't push through into the kit. So it's going to give you a nice firm backing to push against. So it's just not going to be sucking up all the putty when you go to fix it. There's a few little raised details there, but they're not going to get in the way. Let's just do that. And voila. Alright. Easy. Very, very easy. Let's have a look at the underside. So you can see what we've done. We've given ourselves a little bit of a backing there. And now I'm going to put the two-part epoxy in those holes. And we'll show you that step. Right. So here's our two-part epoxy, the Epo putty. Part A and part B, the hardener. So you mix these two together equally. We're only going to need a small amount, so I'm not going to cut off a huge amount. Always store this when you're not in use. Always wrap it up in plastic. Give it a sort of tightish seal if you can, just to stop it from drying out. Now all we need to do is just mix those two parts together, and we'll do that. It's really exciting stuff. But dip your fingers in the water as well. So this stuff, it does get a little tacky, less so I find than Milliput, but if you wet your fingers, it works fine. So you might just need to add a little bit of water as you go, but it's very, very pliable. And you can see that's mixed really, really quickly. Right. So, next piece, let's have a look. Now we only really need a small amount, so you don't need a heck of a lot. And what I love about this, you just use your hands. You don't need any specialized tools, but you can just use your hands and push it down. And we've got our backing on there, so that's not going to go through, which is fantastic. A little bit more in there. We'll jam it into those holes as well. You can see I'm not really being all that pedantic about it. Just get it in there. Alright, so there's heaps of build up on the surface there, and we'll show you what to do with that in a sec. And we'll just do the last 2 holes. So this stuff actually sands really well. It sets hard, but it's not quite as hard as the plastic, so it tends to sand very, very easily. So I'm just going to put that aside and wipe my hands. Okay, now last bit we want to do, I'm going to try and use just a bit of excess plastic card for this, is just remove the excess. So just scrape that along the surface like so, and you can see we've got a nice neat little fill in there. We'll do the same on this. So I'm not being overly cautious, being a bit rough with it. Just going to get a little bit more. I normally try to use an old razor blade or something for this bit, but I'm just going to be sacrificing some plastic card for the video, so let's have a look. So pushing it down as you scrape, just to fill in the details. If you remove a bit out, like I've done there, not the end of the world. As I said, it gets a little tacky. Just apply a bit of water. Get another little piece. Whack it in. Do it again. So it doesn't get much easier than that. That's pretty good. It's a little bit depressed. I will do this properly. Grab a tiny bit more. That's pretty good. Now anything that's not, if it's still a little bit sunken when it dries, then I'll just fix it up with Tamiya, and we'll show you that. We'll just get this last bit off. I just want to dampen that a little bit. Hopefully that'll help remove it. So pushing down on the surface as I'm scraping, making sure it's all off. Any excess is easily sanded off, so I'm not worried about that at all. Just tidy this up so you can see the bit what I've got left on there, and it really is that simple. Right, so that's fixed. Then all you got to do is sand them back. So if you see on this one, I've sanded these back. I've just got to clean out a little bit of putty on the sides of the suspension arms there, but that's sanded back. That is completely smooth. Now this one wasn't. I had a little bit of a divot on those two, so I've applied the Tamiya putty to those, and we'll let those. We've let that dry. Now I'm just going to put a bit of water. If you can get wet, dry sandpaper, it really keeps the dust down, and it seems to work very, very well just with a bit of moisture. And you can see, there we go, it's already done. Look at that. Alright, so that's the little divot that I was fixing. Sorry, off camera. That's the little divot I was fixing with the Tamiya, and there should have been one here. This is where the injector pin mark was, and I didn't really fill it properly the first time round. Just give that another go. Beautiful. Right. Easy, easy, easy. So all I'll do now is I'll hit that with a little bit of a lighter sandpaper just to make sure it's all ultra smooth, and then well, I'm ready for painting. So I'll paint it black on the underside, or grey, primer grey. If you want to use a primer grey, you can, and just make sure that I've got it all 100% perfect. But it is that basic. So there we go. That is how to really fill Any marks you need filling, any holes you need filling with 2-part epoxy and Tamiya putty. This stuff will set in about 4 or 5 hours. Then I'll sand that back. It does take a little while to set, but it is really well worth waiting. It works very well. So there we go. If there's any other videos you'd like to see, this one was done at the request of a message that I got through to my Facebook page. If there's any other videos you'd like to see, just shoot us a message via Facebook. I'll put the link in the video description below. And yeah, let me know and I'll see if I can accommodate you. Thanks for watching.